Morning, everyone, and welcome to our live stream this morning. It is going to be an interesting show as we talk about the energies that has been coming through today and throughout for this month and all the planets that are leaving retrograde. And there's a lot of stuff going on. So today I have Althea joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm Althea, and I am the owner of Direct Emotion LLC. I am a certified emotion code practitioner where I help you quickly identify the trapped emotions that are keeping you from, causing you to, or contributing from anything that's blocking you from your success and personal growth and development. So you can get a hold of me at on Facebook. You can get a hold of me here. You can private message me under Althea Mitchell, and we can set up an appointment.
Awesome. And I am Majestic Michelle, and I work with the Akashic Records to help you release and remove the negative emotions trapped by trauma that happened either in a past life or in this lifetime. And you can get a hold of me either through this page, healingwithmichelleadams.com, or on my Facebook, Healing with Michelle Adams. And you can message me through there. So today, it's been interesting because today the 2222 gate opens up. That is an interesting gate because it's actually the start of the time of Aquarius.
Nice.
So that all starts today. So today we get to choose if we want to enter into that age or not, because everything on earth is a choice. And if we decide to enter into it, we get to hold on to and keep the love, joy, and compassion within our lifetimes and to help manifest through all that stuff as we go through our lives. But remember, as we go through this too, it's interesting because because it is free choice. We may have family members that choose not to go into that. And so we got to be aware of, okay, they're choosing that path and that lifestyle, and that's okay for their experiences, but it doesn't need to be yours. And we need to really work on not getting hung up on what their experiences should be and what yours are, if you choose that path. And so it's going to be an interesting time as people get into and used to the dynamic of having maybe 2 to 3 kind of dimensions and worlds in the same world right now, because we get to choose. And with this portal opening up, manifestation is going to come a lot quicker. So you guys, whatever's in your heart is going to manifest.
Well, one of the biggest, so I'm not the biggest person on planet alignment and all that kind of stuff. That is really out of my forte. But I do get curious, what keeps people from choosing not to let go of past stuff? All of us have been through it. And now that we have this great awakening happening right now, how and what can we do to start choosing to move past it?
For some people, I think they just hang on to it because it's what they know, it's what they're used to, and they don't know anyone else who knows anything, who does anything different.
Yeah,
and so they've never seen a different.
Right. So how this is always the question, because I always wonder, what can I do as an individual to not only help myself but to help others? To be that example of, okay, even though it's coming up again, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to choose to handle it? All this kind of stuff. And so this is one of the reasons why I do the emotional work, is because it's when we're working through this kind of stuff, it's sometimes it does come back to see if we're, checking on how we going through that kind of stuff. And so, when you have all the planets aligned into your favor, then how do you move forward when you don't have an example? So it's, I think it's kind of how does one know when to reach out? How does one know when to start picking somebody to help them move through and that kind of stuff? So it's this power of choice, realizing how powerful that is and how you can step into it, I think is crucial, especially in this moment now.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on stepping into making the choice now to move forward, even though?
So I think, I mean, we always need to make a choice, because if we don't make a choice, the universe is going to make a choice for you. So either way, a choice is being made. You might as well be in control of that choice, right? um, but yet, for people who don't have, a lot of times, like I know when I knew that I needed something different, but didn't have a positive role model or never seen it before, I would start picking up books. I would start on YouTube and start watching videos and Googling the subject that I wanted to release to hear how other people did it. I would start pinpointing. I mean, sometimes, I mean, it's not always ideal because they're acting, but characters. It's like, wait a minute here. They have what I have. What is it they're doing mentally in that character to have that? You can ask the universe that. You can ask the universe to go, hey, this is what I desire. Can you show me how I can get that? But always remember, when you do that too, you got to add ease and grace. Because sometimes the universe has a really funny sense of humor that isn't so funny.
Well, it's not funny when it's happening. It's funny later on. And then you look back and you're like, oh, yeah. So, okay. So this is, one of the things that I think is you can't lose your sense of humor through all of this, right? You got to get joyful about it, because it's like, you've struggled and struggled and struggled, and here you are. You're at this point where you're like, okay, I can either keep going left, I know what's down left road, or I can go right and try something new. So some of the things that you can expect when you are choosing a different road than what you've been experiencing. One, there's always going to be that nervousness. There's always going to be that question of, did I choose the right thing? Mm-hmm. So, in learning how to choose the right road, there's a lot of things that go into that, right? Now, one thing I want everybody to keep in mind is that when you start making these changes, it is very easy to doubt yourself. It is very easy to doubt yourself. And when you start doubting yourself, that allows a portal to open up that allows more of to come through, because you're working automatically and by default, the law of attraction. So what you think about, you bring about. And so how does one train the mind to be aware of what are you thinking about? So, I like, so I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, Eckhart Tolle. Okay. So one of the things that he suggested to start training your mind of how to get into the now and focus on what it is that you're doing, he says, go in and wash your hands. And I like that, because I was like, okay. And he says, notice the smell of the soap. Notice how it lathers. Notice how, he says, the water feels. Notice how it feels, hot or cold, and bring yourself really into the moment. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, when you're focused on that, where is your mind? Is it peaceful? Well, naturally it would be, because you're focusing on one thing. I think one of the biggest things that causes an upset for us is we try to focus on many things at one time. And I don't think it's possible to multitask in thoughts, because you're either on one tangent or you're on another. And so being able to focus on one thing allows you to really hone in and say, what part of my life am I really dissatisfied in? Because not every time are we dissatisfied in every aspect. It's usually just one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not multiple things.
That is so true. I mean, and I like how you said, like, we can open up our own portals depending on how we're feeling and what kind of energy we're bringing about that day. So we really need to really focus on too, like, what kind of portals, what kind of things do we want to bring forth on a daily basis? And right now, with the 222 portal being open, the gate being open, and the age of Aquarius starting, it is a really crucial time to really focus on what we're actually manifesting, what we're thinking about, how we're feeling. is a huge part in the law of attraction.
Right. Well, and remembering constantly that all of the laws, all the universal laws, are going into effect all the time. They're active, regardless of whether we are aware of it or not. They're
Mm-hmm.
constantly working. So, how do we get, you know, I think this, I think it is extremely important that we understand that we have a choice in it, because it's a lot easier to choose to be humbled than it is to be humbled by
Mm-hmm.
experience. And so, when we are choosing to grow out of the situation that we're currently in, I think that's so important instead of letting the situation control our destiny. I
Right.
think it's important that we understand that the change happens within us first before it affects the outside world around us. And honestly, that statement of be the change that you want to see in the world is ever so true. And I
Mm-hmm.
think using today's date and the portal that's open and the information that can come through, I think use it to your advantage today.
Yeah.
Today is take advantage of the universe day, and
Right.
make that choice.
Exactly. And it's like when, like I said before, a choice is always going to be made. Do you want it to be one that you chose, or the one that just automatically is in your auto correct type thing and it's just going to come up again and again and again, whether you like it or not? I mean, truthfully, it's kind of what it is, like autocorrect to the wrong word.
Yeah, because
Because
I
you didn't
just
pay
know.
attention to go, ooh, that's not what I wanted. Before you sent that text.
Yeah, everybody ducking knows what I'm talking about. Well, and I mean, isn't it amazing how when we are starting to move into a direction that is positive, sometimes you need to start very, very small. So even if today is the day that you choose to start very, very small, of maybe today you just write a list of what you would like for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe today is the day that you know what, today I'm going to go for a walk. You just get on the treadmill for 10 minutes. Maybe you're just choosing to make a better meal tonight. Something simple. It doesn't have to be, this miraculous, everything's going to change all in 10 seconds thing.
Right.
Because, of course, we don't want to get overwhelmed. It's so easy. And right now, it's like the universe has been overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's feeling it. Everybody, you see it everywhere you turn.
Yeah.
And it's like, get out of the overwhelm. Choose to get out of that first. Choose to just take a deep breath in, breathe out. Try some
Mm-hmm.
breath work, and get out of the overwhelm. And then choose that maybe today I'm just going to smile a little bit more. Maybe that's it,
Yeah.
and make the simple choices that will help move you forward. I think one of the biggest things that hinks us up is the inertia coming to a stop. We have that forward moving momentum. We're going, we're going, we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we let something, a thought, an action, a word from somebody else get in there and it stops us immediately for
Right.
whatever growth. So it takes us a lot of energy to get that momentum going again. And so, what are some positive aspects that that we can incorporate into today with the portal of today, from your perspective, Michelle?
Some positive aspects is to realize that, even though we're all attached to the tree of life through energy and that stuff, we don't have to own everyone else's stuff and we don't have to take it on. And I think that's where like people get clogged up a lot of times, is that they start taking on everyone else's stuff throughout the day instead of going, nope, we're going to put this boundary and your stuff is just going to go around me and I'm not even going to claim it, because as soon as you react to it, it is yours. So if you never react to it, it's never yours. And we have to realize that as soon as we react in either a positive or a negative way, we claim it. So why not react positively to the positive stuff happening in our lives and let the negative stuff just kind of like bypass us a little bit more? So that way we don't have to own it and claim it and it'll eventually work its way out.
Well, realizing that we don't have to control everything. There's no way that we can control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that really you do have to do this evaluation on a regular basis and sometimes 45 times a day. Is that something that I can control? No, move on.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There's other stuff that you're like, no, I can control how I'm going to react to that. And I get the perfect example is, when somebody says, well, I'm going to tell you something, but you got to promise not to get mad. Oh,
Right.
okay. That right there makes me instantly like, okay, I'm already mad.
Right.
How about we say, I don't know how you're going to react to this, but I'm going to tell you this. And then let the reaction happen, because there is some stuff that it's worth getting mad about. There
Right.
is some stuff that is worth getting very angry about. There is some stuff that's worth getting very lovable about. I mean, it's not every bit of information that comes through is worth, just crushing your day or crushing your spirit. And so it's like, choose to be able to be aware of your reaction. You're going to react. We all are. I don't know one person that doesn't react. I react. And even though I'm an emotion code facilitator, does it mean that I handle every situation perfectly? No, it doesn't. Sometimes I fly off the handle. I have my little quirks that obviously trigger me. And when I'm aware of it, you work through it.
Right.
It comes up. Not all the time. When I don't know about you, Michelle, but my days are pretty busy. I don't have time to sit there and go, you know what? I'm going to work on 1976 today. That was a year that was really bad for me. It was when I was, 1.5? There is trauma that I know that was there. I don't have time during my day to sit there and go, I know that this is affecting me from 1976. It just doesn't work like that. But what happens is as you discover your day and you're like, you know what? Why is this still bothering me? This was a situation that happened, months ago, weeks ago, days ago, hours ago, whatever. And all of a sudden I find myself dwelling on it. That's when you go, okay, I'm dwelling on this. What is it bringing up for me? Why am I reacting to it? And how am I really feeling? So using the portal today, like this is where you get the jump on it. You get to choose, well, this day and every day, really. But being able to choose how to react to it and decide, I'm not going to be taking that on, or I'm not going to let this affect me like it did in the past. So using that to your advantage today is going to be a growth spurt. That's what we're looking for today, a growth spurt. This is something that can launch you and help propel you forward. So why not use the growth spurt to your advantage?
I mean, and another thing of like taking things on is like when we have people that come to us and like they like have issues or they just need to talk things through. One of the things I started with my kids is like, do you need me to listen or do you need advice? Because truthfully, that will stop a lot of miscommunications and a whole bunch of other issues. Like if you just need somebody to listen so you can work things through, hey, like, great, I can be here to listen. So it's like when my daughter, when she was in college and that, she would start calling me up going, Mom, I need my friend mom to listen right now. And I'd be like, okay. Like, okay, this is the mom you need. Got it. Or she's like, I need my friend mom to give me advice right now. I need to know what's going on. I'm like, okay. So it's like when we start off a conversation like, I need this or I need this, it also helps us determine like where our boundaries are, where our needs are, and how to communicate with other people a lot easier. So that we don't always ever feel like as if we're being misheard.
Right.
Or not being heard.
Right. Well, and here's the other aspect that I think that we can find ourselves in overwhelm over is when we try to analyze everything to death, right? that dwelling person comes out and you're like, oh, I must dwell on this forever and ever. And it's like, okay, you have to decide at what point, are you gonna analyze everything to death? Because I don't know anybody that analyzes how to tie their shoe.
Right.
And that's one of the first things that we do in the day. We, get up, get ready, get dressed, put on our shoes and tie them. And it's like, do you spend hours analyzing, maybe I didn't tie that shoe correctly. Maybe I should have went over instead of under. Maybe I should have, we don't.
And the bunny ears around the tree versus.
Right. So there's just some things that it's like, we don't analyze everything to death. So decide, is this worth analyzing, or is this something I can put aside till later? Right. Because, there's this point that you have to get to that I think everybody gets to, because this is what promotes us to change. This is what drives us to seek better, is this moment when you decide, I don't like how I'm reacting. I think I'm overreacting, because there are some situations that I find, we all have our one honest friend that we can call and you say, this is what's going on. Am I overreacting? And they say, yeah, you are. And you say, oh, okay. So in this part, what is causing this overreaction? Maybe it is because you felt like you weren't heard. Maybe it is because you feel like, you were being justified. But I will often tell you that if you find yourself on the road to justification for an action, that tells me that it is wrong, because truth does not need to be defended. Truth is truth. It stands alone. There's no defending it. It doesn't need armed guards or anything like that. It is what it is. It is just exactly that, the truth. So you're trying to justify why you're doing what you're doing. That tells me that you are working at blaming somebody else, choosing to not deal with it at the time,
right,
or building a case against somebody else. So it's right. Like when we're looking at the truth, you have to look at the truth for what it really is.
That is so true. And sometimes, like, we don't always get we don't always know what the truth is. And because if we're in the middle of it, it may take us a little bit to figure out what the truth is. And if we're constantly overreacting or overanalyzing it, or, that kind of stuff, is like going, oh my gosh, like it's going to take even longer to get through.
Well, and Michelle, I just seen a comment by one of the viewers, and it says a hijacked amygdala. That is exactly right.
Yes.
How many times do you get hijacked? And
right.
I mean, when we talk about the amygdala and everything like that, like, what is the purpose of it? It's to keep us on track. It's to process. It's to give us direction. It's to handle business. It's like a central system, Right. And when it gets hijacked, yeah, it goes all over the place. It causes us to react maybe irrationally when we wouldn't, and that kind of stuff. And so I think that is an appropriate comment. Hijacked.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, it's just that, like, when we own other people's energy, it's kind of like we are being hijacked.
Right.
Because we're allowing their energy to come in and to feed us. When if we just step back and go, wait a minute, that's not mine. That's not who I am. It's not who I want to be.
Right. Well, sorry, go ahead.
So it's like going, it's like when once we realize that, oh my gosh, this is not me, every single time this happens, we can realize it a lot sooner. And then eventually it's like, okay, the minute it happens, like, nope, it's not me. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to let it go. And that's how it's done with for good.
Well, how about today? This just kind of, I always find it funny when information comes into you, like the ideas that pop into your head as we're moving along through these subjects. But so this just in. What about, there's signs all over this world. And how about incorporating some signs, like some safe signs? Like, I drove through Arizona once, And it was really fascinating to me to see how many signs were on the road that was like, please do not stop for hitchhikers. Well, okay, so let's take that term and put it into what we're using today. Stop picking up hitchhikers that jack your thoughts, that
Right?
take over your vehicle in which you are supposed to be in control of. What about
Mm-hmm.
the other sign of lights on for safety? This is something that we often really overlook, okay?
Right.
During the day when we're driving down the road, we can't tell that our headlights are on, right?
Right.
But what does it allow us to do? When everybody's got their headlights on, it allows us to be aware of others, but not take their stuff. Allows us to see them and move safely past them. That's the whole
Mm-hmm.
concept, to move safely past them. So, what about using some of these signs to help us choose to use this portal to our advantage today? What would be some of the signs that our viewing audience would incorporate, and how could you take that sign, like watch for falling rock? It's good to be aware.
Yeah. Heads up, like, wait a minute here, what's coming from above?
Because whether we realize it or not, we constantly get those signs. We just choose not to pay attention to them,
Mm-hmm.
or we choose to overlook them. How about the one sign with the car that has the black wheels that are like, I'm like, oh, great, crazy driver up ahead.
Watch for falling iguanas.
Right.
Well, that's actually, okay, that's kind of really actually funny. So over in Orlando and Tampa last week, it got really cold that they were actually falling out of the tree.
Oh, that's scary.
And so it was on the news and everything last week that it was like, yep, it was literally like they were falling out of the tree. So that was a true thing to watch for falling iguanas if you're outside walking underneath trees.
Well, I mean, let's face it, there is nothing that will stand you more alert than walking along and getting hit by an iguana, but how many times do we do that? I mean, this is the joy in finding that we don't have to let everything be so detrimental to us.
Right.
And that kind of stuff, So it's amazing when we start laughing about it and putting it into really perspective that look how lighter the mood is. Look how much more easier you're starting to flow. Because when you start, it's like going like this to hold water. And instead of just opening your hand and going like this, you can get a lot more in there. You can hold it for a lot longer. But if you start squishing it, then,
yeah,
so it's kind of funny. So I went and had a massage the other day, and, she's like, oh, your pec muscles are really tight. She says, it's probably all of that work that you're doing in front of you with your arms in front of you. And I'm like, well, sometimes it is just practicing strangling people, or strangling my situation. Like, give me what I want. No. But it's like, okay, I need to relax a little bit. What's really causing me to start stressing out about something that's going on? And so it's like when we start understanding that we have a choice in it and how important it is, and that if you can choose to, get out of the fog, then you kind of start seeing a way around it. When we're in the middle of it, we have blinders on. We only have, our focus is so narrow that we miss so many options and opportunities. So being able to, kind of being like, okay, I'm going to breathe. And this is one of those iguanas that they were talking about earlier. And it's just hit me. So how do I deal with it?
Right.
And, and it's a great way to be able to kind of alleviate the stress of the situation. Now, sometimes we get so caught up that every situation is stressful. How do we work through that? What is some things that you would recommend, Michelle, to keep from being so overwhelmed that every situation is stressful?
So one of the things I practice and I work with my clients on is taking each moment for what it is, and don't work on bringing that moment into the next issue that comes up. Because that's when kids come in with this innate ability to, if they get in trouble, once the punishment is done, they're done. It's good. It's gone. It's us adults that remind them of it day after day after day after day, that teaches them how to carry it through to the next day or to the next day or to the next day, instead of just allowing it to be done. And so if we go back to watching children and how they deal with, redirection, we can learn a lot from them in working on like taking each moment for what it is. Kids are really good at taking each moment for what it is. And 1 minute, okay, they're in trouble, and they do their punishment, and then the next moment they're off playing with their friends like nothing ever happened.
Right.
Because to them, it's done. We need to stop teaching everyone and ourselves that it's okay to carry each moment into the next moment. Because we can allow each moment to be different.
That is so spot on. I like that. Because when we're teaching other people, what are we doing to ourselves? Reminding ourselves, right? So I think that's spot on. Like, it is important that we do. Like, if we were to take into us and understand completely what it means that we literally are teaching every day. There isn't one of us that isn't teaching. Everybody is teaching. We're teaching ourselves. We're teaching the people around us. We're teaching our neighbors. We're teaching, whoever is within our vicinity. We're teaching them constantly. So what are we wanting, and they always say the best way to learn something is to teach it. Well, when we're teaching negative habits, I mean, you got to look at it. There's some things that are taught for safety reasons, right? Stove hot. Don't burn yourself. Don't touch the hot stove. That is something that is a good thing to be taught. Fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of whatever is coming down the path, fear of whatever's lurking, fear of what happened 10 years ago, fear of, that is not a good thing to be taught.
Right.
And so being able to like, okay, how am I going to get out of this? And that kind of stuff. So when we're looking at that, like, look at what you're teaching. What are you learning right now?
So I mean, like in everything in life, it also goes along, if we think about it, like the 4 stages of the medicine wheel. Because you learn it, you practice it, you become a master of it, and then you teach it. And then it starts over.
What a great cycle.
And everything we do at the end of like, okay, I get this, is teaching it. On the medicine wheel, everything. We have to be able to teach it in order to really know what it is and how to really intake it into our lives and be done with it.
Well, let's take a look at that medicine wheel in the year time. This is a really important aspect, I think, because it's like, you take the first aspect of the medicine wheel. What is it again?
It is the baby stage. So it's the learning.
So the first part of the year, why do you think we set resolutions, all this kind of stuff? We're, all this, we're gearing up and we're learning, like, what are we doing? Okay. The second part of the year is what part of the medicine wheel?
We're practicing.
So this is putting into practice, literally, the new steps that you just got done learning. So maybe you didn't know how to smile as much. Let's say that. Okay. That's something simple. All right. So you watch some YouTube videos and you're like, okay, so even when I don't feel like smiling, the one lady says, put a pencil in my mouth long ways and bite down on it because that engages the smile muscles and that helps trick my body into smiling more. So the second half of the year, I'm going to do that a little more. And then I'm going to look in the mirror, quite frankly, and be like, okay, I'm walking around with a pencil in my mouth.
And you can't help but laugh because now you have a pencil in your mouth, right?
Right. And be like, so is this what horses do when they put the bit in their mouth? Is it?
Yes.
I'm smiling. So we're practicing, right? So then it's like being able to incorporate these new steps. Maybe it is something simple like putting a pencil in your mouth to make you smile more. And so then the third part of the year, which is what, July through September. That's the third part of the year, which is what part of the medicine wheel?
We are acquiring mastering the skills for ourselves.
So it is learning how to smile at things more. You are like, oh, that's funny. We can find stuff funny. We
Mm-hmm.
can find the humor in it. We can remember funny events, funny shows. This is
Mm-hmm.
us laughing a lot more. And everybody says, there's something different about you. What
Right.
are you doing? And you're like, well, I put a pencil in my mouth and walk around with it.
And I couldn't help but start laughing.
And then in the last part of the year, the last 3 months, because everybody's curious about what you're doing, because you are seeming just a little bit different, then you start teaching, which is
Mm-hmm.
helping others. So then you're like, okay, now that I've mastered the smiling at things, now what are we going to learn next year?
Right.
So, when we think about this, let's break it. You just break it down into simple things. Don't break it into something that you got to overwhelm. Just understand that it takes about 3 months. It takes about 3 months for you to come full circle and understand what it is that you need to do. Because by the
Mm-hmm.
time that you beat it to death, and the time that you drag a couple of friends in to help you beat it to death some more, then you got the guts worked out, and you're like, the liver.
And you can always find those friends that will help you beat it to death too if you're really wanting to.
What kind of fight friends do you develop? Good ones,
Right.
bad ones, indifferent ones, honest
Right.
ones. So it's like, it's very important that we take kind of this aspect of, when we choose to learn something, then go all in. Why should you hold back from learning something
Mm-hmm.
new on how to better handle yourself, better handle your thoughts? I mean, why would you hold yourself back by
Mm-hmm.
doubt or fear or, well, you tried this once before, and it didn't
Right.
work out very well. We also have those friends,
Right.
and you're like, maybe I should get some new friends
Yeah.
that also will put a pencil in their mouth and walk around.
Exactly.
So I just kind of think when you're using this for a choice portal, if you're really going to get the most out of it, decide today one or two things. It doesn't have to be an entire list. And yes, I guess if you want to go through and make an entire list of things that you want to change in your life this year, then go ahead and do it. Don't hold back. But
Right.
whatever you put on that paper, make sure you're willing to go all in on. You're worth
Mm-hmm.
it. It's your life. Why would you
Right.
hold back from it? You know,
Exactly.
what keeps
That's
us?
just it. Like people don't realize that we are the CEO of our own lives.
Right.
And we need to start acting like it. We need to stop acting like someone else is in control of our own lives because each and every person is the CEO of their own life.
Yes. So have a board meeting with yourself.
Exactly. Even if you have to talk it out loud.
Well, you see this blank piece of paper behind me? When I start getting stuck and I need to see the situation and I don't have anybody that I can get a hold of immediately, or maybe I'm not quite ready to discuss it with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
it is a pro and con. When you can write it down, you can see what it is exactly, black and white, kind of, put all your feelings out there, that kind of stuff. It's a very helpful, useful tool. It's
Mm-hmm.
no different than a PowerPoint of how to overcome a problem. You know, everybody, I don't know, make a PowerPoint if you need to, I guess. That might be how,
Right?
I haven't tried that yet. Maybe I should. Be like, today's PowerPoint is how to decipher, because when we're looking for ways to be able to focus on what it is that we need to do, it is time, you're right, to make
Mhm.
that decision to take back the wheel of our life and realize that we do have some control in this. We
Right.
can, we can pray, we can, consult, we can, do all these things that can help provide information to making a good choice and to making our lives better. Because I don't believe that we were designed to be in overwhelm or
Right.
stress or completely miserable. I don't think we were designed that way. I mean, the
Mm.
heart is designed to keep beating, to keep pumping blood through it, to keep living. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, why wouldn't we get that passion? So maybe if you're lacking passion and you're like, I just, maybe that's where you need to start.
Right.
Maybe you need to find out what killed your passion. When did you allow it to be taken? When did you give it away? When did you decide it's going down the middle of the road?
Right.
So harness back in that passion. Get back, why aren't you excited about stuff in your life? I mean, even the downhill parts should be exciting. No, are they fun? No.
Yeah.
But put a pencil in your mouth. It makes it a lot easier.
Well,
Right?
the downhill stuff, like if you look at it as a figure eight, can be the fun stuff. Because
Right.
that means life is like moving, it's easy, it's going. And when I work with clients, if they're telling me that, they can only go like 2 days of ease and grace and then everything goes chaotic, it tells me that their long, straight part of the eight is short. And the curve part, which is our working through issues, is very big and wide. And so we work on getting that longer and narrower. Because life is like on a figure eight. We're always going to have to work through things. But why not allow it to be things that is going to move us to our next step instead of things that are always clogging us up?
Right. Well, I heard it once referenced when somebody's learning how to do the stock market, okay? When, they say, when you watch the graph, it's like up and down and up and down and up and down. And it's like, everybody's like, well, how do you know when to buy or when to sell or whatever? So I heard this interpretation of, you know what? You take the graph that you were looking at and you turn it upside down. Because when you're looking at the peaks that are supposed to be the low valleys and they become the peaks, that's when it's the highest potential for growth, development, to make money, to whatever it is. And it's like, or to let go of.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So it's, even when you look at the beating heart, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And what does all of that mean? Well, I guess you could talk to a cardiovascular surgeon and be like, you could understand the heartbeat. But really, when you look at it that terms, it's like when you get up to the peak, that's when something is happening, right? And it comes back down naturally because of the plain fact that that's exactly right. When you learn how to tie your shoes, you don't spend the rest of your life learning how to tie your shoes. When you learn how to shovel the sidewalk of snow, do you go and take 50 YouTube lessons or hire a coach to show you how to shovel the sidewalk?
Oh my God. That
No.
reminds me, a friend of mine posted on Facebook going free shoveling lessons tomorrow and the next day in her driveway.
Apparently you do need to teach it sometimes. There's always somebody needing to learn. So
I was like going, oh my God, that is good.
So, I mean, it's just, what is it that you're going to do with it? So it's like, it's exactly right. You get that thing worked through. Yes, you want to streamline it. Yes, you want it to be a little more efficient. And yes, there's always going to be those hiccups because life, we unfortunately can't see everything.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily get to see every aspect of it. So it's like, there's going to be stuff that is unexpected.
Right.
The loss of a job or the loss of this or the loss of that, unexpected events. But there's also going to be lots of joy, lots of happiness, things that are like, wow, that worked out better than I thought it could be. So there's those aspects of it too. So it keeps it equally balanced because, with the good, there is the bad. It's learning how to recognize the good. And when you can understand the good in it, it's going to help produce better results for you. Because when you focus on the negative, that's what you get. When you focus on the positive, it takes a little bit of work. I'm not going to lie about it. It takes a lot of work to stay positive. But there are times when we need to have that grief and despair happen. There are things that we need to slough off through the year that have been lingering. Use those times to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought.
No, even though if you're like, it takes time to create a positive life. And the universe and everything is going to go, are you sure you want this? Are you sure you want this? Are you? And those are you sure you want this are going to become longer and longer in between them as you say, yes, I want this. And that is what we all desire too, because as soon as we get it, remember, you can also not be comfortable because the universe is going to go, hey, you're too comfortable now. Something needs to grow or change. And this is where we have to always like do soul growth, our personal growth, and really just kind of go, okay, this is it. And now I need the next step, or now I need the next step. Because it's okay to grow within ourselves.
Right. Well, put it in the aspect of putting on those really tight jeans that used to fit really well. They're uncomfortable now, right?
Yes.
So something needs to change. What are you going to do about it?
Right?
You have the option. There's two options, very distinct. You can either go buy new pants, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go down to the treadmill. Either way works just fine. No, I'm not going to be mad that you went and bought a bigger size pants.
Because eventually you're going to have that moment where like, ooh, maybe I need to do that more. Right. You're going to get to that size or get to that uncomfortableness where the universe says, okay, now you're really uncomfortable within your body. Why? Is it because you can't move the way you want to? Is it because you can't eat the way you want to? Is it because you can, and then you're like, okay, what do I need to do to get back there?
Right.
I mean, truthfully, like if we were raised to think about it, it's easier to keep it, than it is to have to get it back. It's just like when you're starting a new class in school, that first day of the new class, everyone has an A. It's easier to keep it than it is to try to get it back by your mess up.
Right.
So it's like, if we think of it that way too, it's like, yeah, that first day of class, everyone has that A. How am I going to keep it?
Well, and even if you miss a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens, okay? So everybody gets an A the first day and everybody's working hard. The first week, like you're paying attention, you're not getting sidetracked, you're very focused. And then something happens and you miss a day. Well, what happens is you're like, oh, now I got to hurry and get caught up. As long as you take it in stride, missing one day is not going to be the death of it. It's not going to be enough to topple everything that you've been working on. It's not going to be enough to even make bigger than a dent, like literally. And it's more like what happened? That's what it's going to make. What happens is if we start letting that day lead us into overwhelm, which makes us miss 2 days, then 3 days, and then more overwhelm. And when we're trying to play catch up, instead of just taking it as it comes, then that's where we start getting really, really messed up. And we go from A to F very fast. Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Just ask all my teachers in school. Be like, yeah, that Althea, she started out with an A.
That'd be my teachers too.
I think they took bets on like, okay, what day do you think it's going to start? I got the third. No. But it's like, it's also like, what is important to you? If it's not important to you, it's not going to be there,
Right, exactly.
So what is the priority to you? That's the encouragement. My priority isn't the same as yours, and yours isn't the same as hers or his or theirs or whatever. And so decide what's important to you. Not every hill do we have to die on, but it's important to understand that it's very wise to pick our battles, because some things will affect us differently in 5 years. They do make a difference. If you didn't handle it back then, chances are when you run up against it again, it's going to be a little harder to overcome. So make the choice to do it now. Make the choice to choose to be better, even if it is just in the thought today. Maybe you did enjoy the program today, and if you did, great. Maybe you can list in the comments after you get done watching this, what is one thing that you're going to focus on? What is the one thing you need to change in your life that you have control over? And make the choice. Show us your choice in the comments. I'd like to see see them.
Me too. And that is actually probably a perfect segue to the ending of the show. So everyone, write your, what is the one takeaway that you got today from the show in the comments? That would be a great idea. That way there, it helps us understand too what focuses on what you guys are all interested in also. So I am Majestic Michelle saying see you till next week, and enjoyed having the conversation today.
Thanks, Michelle. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes.